at talking to a person.
Yeah.
Right? And I guess you could, if you want to say I wasn't hearing him in the sense I didn't know it was him that was talking to me, okay, but you're hearing him. Right? Whenever somebody tells me they can't hear from God, if I got 5 minutes with just them and me, that's about as long as it's going to take before I show them how they're hearing from God real good.
Right.
Just 5 minutes.
Right.
That's like the easiest thing, right? Because they are hearing from God.
Sure.
But you don't know, well, I don't know if I am. I don't think I am. You right?
Right.
But you are. You are hearing from God.
Well, and the voice of the world screams so loudly, and we're so familiar with that voice that sometimes it's, you don't stop to recognize God's voice.
Yeah, the voice of the stranger.
Yeah.
The first thing is, it's difficult to know you're hearing the voice of God if you don't know what his voice sounds like.
Right.
Right? If you just see Jesus as a historical figure, instead of seeing Jesus as the voice of God, well, what is it that was revealed there? And then when a person can come and start discerning what was revealed there and talking about what was revealed in the Word made flesh, they're actually speaking about the voice of God.
Yes.
Is what they're doing.
Yes,
and
yes.
then once you see what is contained in the voice of God, you become more sensitive to it. It becomes easier to pick up on, easier to hear.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's like if you turn on a TV really low in a room, you don't hear it real good at first. But if a couple minutes pass by, it gets a little bit louder. You ever notice that?
Yes.
Tuning into
Yeah, you tune
Yes.
into it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it is with the voice of God. We do hear it, but if we don't know exactly what the voice of God said in Jesus, then we can be confused about it. But once someone comes and is like, this is the voice of God. This is what the voice says. This is what it sounds like. Then you start hearing it everywhere you go, about every single thing, about other people. You start being able to see into people's lives. You know the voice of the Father in their life.
Yeah.
You come and tell them about the voice of the Father in their life.
Right.
And then everything starts pointing to Jesus. And then everybody starts looking at Jesus. Everybody starts talking about the Word that was made flesh in Jesus. I just hope people can understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying we'll never have any other meetings that could have any other type of encouraging words. But what I'm saying is, if we could come together and sit around and talk about the Word made flesh, instead of talking about breakthrough or how we want the nations. Listen, man, we might actually find ourselves caught up into the love of the Father, Son, and Spirit.
Amen.
Instead of being tossed to and fro like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, man, Jesus has already inherited the nations. I don't want the nations. Jesus has inherited the nations. Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't need the nations. I don't need to have the nations. The nations don't need to have me. I'm just going to declare the word of how Jesus has inherited the nations.
Thank God.
Right? And how this world's been reconciled back unto him. Right? I'm not busy trying to pray America into God's will.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think that's distraction. And I think it's hogwash. And I know there's a lot of sincere people that are busy with that. So I'm not against them. But all that time is a freaking waste.
Yes.
We don't need to be sitting around praying about how we need America, the spiritual things in America to be broken off. But if we could come together and start talking about the Word made flesh and what God's done to reconcile the world back to himself in Christ, then we could start walking around filled with the love of God. And then that starts touching people.
Yes.
Right? That starts touching individual lives.
Right.
Then people start wanting to know, what is this love coming out of you? What is this peace? What is this joy? And then you become like Peter, where he said, be ready to give a testimony of the hope you have in you.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
when that light's coming shining out of you, people want to know, why is this guy not moved by this? And then you're right there to glorify God. Meaning you start pointing to the fact of how God brought this forth in you free from your works, free from your contribution. Then they start looking at God, right?
Right.
And that's what we should be busy with.
Yes, totally. Yep.